Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are so excited to welcome you to the third edition of the Sunrise WEIRDCast. This has been an exercise in futility for the last couple of weeks, but we appreciate that some of you are being humorous and allowing us to still come into your homes. We are coming to you live from Hays County, beautiful Hays County, Texas, just across the line. And we are here at the Wizard Academy. We are not yet fully licensed as wizards, but we are in the process of doing that. We are here at which distillery? Crowded Barrel Whiskey Distillery.
It's very crowded.
It's not very crowded these days because of the COVID restrictions. And I want you to know that none of us have consumed any whiskey this morning, at least not that anyone else has seen. So we're glad that you're here this morning with us. I want to introduce to you my team here this morning, because our team changes every week. My name is Mark. I'm the pastor at Sunrise. On my right is Kimberly. She's our associate pastor, and she was on last week, so you got to hear her last week. Over on her right is Jeremy Burnett. Jeremy is one of our drummers. He's been out of work for 3 weeks because we're not having church worship services in the sanctuary, and he is slightly depressed because of that, but we have encouraged him to rap on the table or whatever he wants to do to get it out of himself. And over on my left is our amazing volunteer coordinator at Sunrise, Sarah Combs, and she is related to this establishment through her brother, and so we're thankful for him allowing us to be here. And she does a lot of work with the Navigation Center and some of the response that we're having to the COVID situation in Austin. We are glad that you are here, and we want you to do a couple things at the beginning of this. The first one is we would love for you to, right now, text somebody, Facebook message somebody, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do to let somebody know that that you are online and you want them to be online as well. Find your Sunrise friends, gather them, get them online so that they can join us, because this party is more fun the more people we have, and we want you guys to be interacting on Facebook. We've got folks kind of making sure that they're going to hopefully answer some of your comments. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're coming from. Last week we had people from Germany. We had people from the northern part of the United States. Lots of different places dialing in, and so we would love to know where you're from, how you found us, how you got here. If you're a Sunrise expatriate that has tuned back in, we would love for you to let us know, and also just comment, like say, I think there's a bear sneaking up on Mark from behind, or whatever sort of comment you would like to share. And preview, we're gonna read 3 of your comments at the end of this session. So whoever gives us the best comments that are still considered PG-13, we will read those comments at the end of this session. And so we would love for you to get on the commenting and just comment like crazy. The number of comments to beat is 228 from last week. You guys did 228 comments in an hour, which is unbelievable. Wow. And so we would love to have that level of interaction again, just to know that you guys are listening. Helps us feel like we're not just doing something pointless. If you're a part of that. Later in this, we'll also do a couple other fun things like we've been doing every week. One of which is karaoke, and so we're going to be posting the 4 songs that you guys are going to get to choose from for karaoke on the screen, and you're going to get to do a poll. Yeah. So we're in Hays County, and so we thought to ourselves, what kind of music do they play in Hays County? Well, today your 4 choices are going to be between some gospel songs. We want to play some bluegrass gospel, and so you've got 4 fairly famous songs to choose from. One is "This Train," which is awesome. Another one is "I'll Fly Away." The third one is "You Are My Sunshine," classic song from "O Brother, Where Art Thou?" And then "Oh Happy Day," which we had on the choice list last week, but nobody chose it. It was the loser of the songs, and so one of those songs we will karaoke at the end of this time, and so you get to choose. And so make sure when that vote comes up on your screen that you pick one of those 4 songs. We'll be watching the poll and see how the songs do, and we'll pick one. And all of us who are amazing singers are going to karaoke that at the top of our lungs. There may also be a wedding happening right around the corner from here, and so we want to sing it loud enough that we disturb the wedding and get on their recording.
So I have a question. Do you think that "You Are My Sunshine" is only from the 90s?
No, but that's the part where I know it from.
You've never heard of the song before that?
I grew up in the Midwest where we only sang hymns that were super slow and could be used at a funeral.
I've never heard "You Are My Sunshine" at church before.
Well, that makes sense since most people are in church to grovel over their sin.
No happy songs.
Not here in Hayes County. Not here in Hayes County. We are going to do a better job. Yeah, there's a lot of sunshine. And because of the amazing personalities of the people that we've got here today, we're going to be super sunshiny.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
That's all I got.
The end of the time together today is going to be this amazing thing that we've started called Mark's Tips for Surviving the Apocalypse. And if you stay tuned until the end of this service, you will get to see some new tips for surviving the apocalypse. 2 weeks ago, I was wrapped in saran wrap. Last week, I was sprayed by a power washer. We'll see what happens this week. I've got some good tips for surviving the apocalypse this week.
Oh, dear.
This one's a little more risky.
It's a little more... Yeah, we'll see.
Don't tell them.
Yeah.
It's
gonna start
Jeremy's here,
phenomenon around the world. Yeah, as long as everyone...
I was specifically asked to come here for this.
Yeah, and I want to also comment that for your sake, I specifically told Jeremy that even though we're live broadcasting, he needs to put on pants. And I think he did, right?
Put on shorts.
Hey, all right. He's good. We're covered. This morning we're gonna start like we always do by kind of asking a question and kind of see how everybody is doing on things. The question that it's kind of been going through my mind this week has been, how are you in the middle of this craziness allowing your mental health and spiritual health to thrive, even though we're in the midst of such a crazy lockdown situation? So I'm starting right next to me, Kimberly. She is our pastoral care pastor. So if anyone should have their spiritual and emotional life figured out, it should be Kimberly. And so she's going to tell you from an expert standpoint how to be emotionally well.
I actually love.
Thanks, Kimberly.
I'm just gonna keep talking. It's fine. So I love silence, and a few years ago, the thought of having to pray or meditate in silence killed me, because you don't want to sit around and have all the thoughts invade your mind. But in that moment where you're sitting there and you're thinking about God and your own spiritual life and what's going on, and you reach to Him, He is the one thing that fills the room. So I think that it's a wonderful practice to learn how to sit in silence and to pray in silence. So I would encourage you this week, if you don't know how to do that, try to start. Don't try to start for 30 minutes. Try to start for 2. And it will be awkward, but you will make it through it. That's what I have.
Awesome. That's great.
All right, Jeremy, we're going over to you. What's been going through your mind as you try to keep yourself on track?
So yeah, as a recovering alcoholic addict, I have some basic tools that I've been trying to focus on using, which hasn't been the best, because I'm in my head as well. And for my spiritual and mental health, I do also meditate, and I've been praying more. I've been reaching out to my sponsor, and as an extrovert, it's been extremely hard because I love people, and right now I can't be around people. And so for me, I've been watching a lot of Netflix, doing a lot of reading. I do go walking with gloves and masks on, and I just...
What, you read with gloves and masks on, or you walk with gloves and masks on?
I walk with gloves and masks on. And I just try and stay, 6 feet away from everybody, except for right now.
So where do you put the mask if you have more than one on? You said masks.
I did, didn't I? Well, I didn't mean to add S to the end of that. But yeah,
Be nice to Jeremy. It's his first time. Jeez.
Jesus. Yes. So meditate, pray, write a journal, and this is what I do to stay sane. And then I call people. So that's all I can do right now, and it really sucks. So that's what I got.
Good.
And Sarah is I want you guys to know that 3 of us on here are staff members and at Sunrise, and I don't think either of us works nearly as hard as Sarah does. And so Sarah does all of our finding of food and getting volunteers signed up and keeping us all under control, and she's helping us on our team as kind of helping navigate all the COVID things. And so Sarah, how do you keep yourself focused and on track so that you don't burn out and go super crazy hanging out with all your kids at home?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, first of all, I'm really honored to be part of this staff team. It's been, since I started a few months ago, it's been awesome and I love it. One of the hardest things for me is not jumping in too much because I love it so much. So thank you guys for letting me be a part of this. But for me, a few things that I do that we've been doing, and some of them I didn't do intentionally and just finding myself doing. One of my favorite parts of the day is getting up in the morning before all of my kids wake up and having coffee, and sometimes my husband will get up and come downstairs with me and we get to visit, and I'll spend some of that time praying and reading my Bible. And then another thing we've found ourselves doing is we're just outside a lot. We have a lot of stuff going on in our front yard. We've got a front yard garden and a picnic table, and recently I do this thing called aerial silks that we hung in our front yard, so our neighbors get to see that, which is interesting and a conversation starter. So it's been fun sitting in the front yard because then we get to see people because they're walking by.
So we need to clarify that aerial silks is like, Sarah does like Cirque du Soleil, like hanging from the ceiling stuff, like, which is pretty unreal, and I don't understand how she
Level
doesn't
2.
crack her skull open,
I
but
don't
we're
know
very
either.
impressed.
When I first told Mark I did aerial silks, he thought I was in an old person's knitting group. So just clarify that that's not what it is.
Doesn't have a lot of common sense in it.
I'm sorry that aerial silks is not in my vocabulary like it is now.
Ariel.
So yeah, just getting outside and I can see people from afar, and that's been nice to connect.
Yeah, I find that people are much more enjoyable when they're 6 feet away.
Savage.
Yeah, I know it's rough, but the farther they stay away from me, the more I enjoy them. Like I've never loved Jeremy as much as I have for the last several months while he's been forced to stay away from me. I'm kidding, Jeremy. I love you.
That is
all good.
rough.
Still got a better haircut.
Ouch. So, my answer to this question is that I think being able to spend time by yourself is probably the most important thing for me. I think a couple of people have said that similar thing, but having 2 kids that when I walk into my house treat me as a jungle gym, and also having a bunch of folks experiencing homelessness that we're serving that probably if I didn't have barriers up would also try to treat me like a jungle gym. It's difficult to find space to actually be alone. And like my old school way to deal with that would be to go sit at a coffee shop, although all coffee shops are now closed, which I take as a personal slight to me. And so my only real thing that I can do is like drive around, which makes me feel like when my children had just been born and the only way to get any sort of peace and quiet was to get in the car and just drive around the block or put them to sleep. And so we're just back to that. And so I think I would encourage everybody to find a good balance between connecting with people but also kind of being by yourself. So I think all of us kind of have a different perspective. Like if we don't have kids or we live alone, like interacting with people online is probably super important. But also like if you're cramped into your house with a whole bunch of other people, then finding space where you can go be by yourself is really, really important. And I think being able to do that in a way that also integrates kind of your spirituality is a really important part too. Because I think a lot of us are struggling right now to connect to God in the ways that we have in the past. And so I think this is just an opportunity to do that better. I'm going to give each of these folks now a chance to kind of talk through just their particular areas of kind of what they do, in the Sunrise community, but also in the community at large, and kind of how each of us has areas of expertise in the way that we're working outside of our own just personal bubbles to be able to kind of like create some impact in the world. It's been really amazing for me in the last week or so to see how the Sunrise community has kind of grown together. And I want you to know one of the crazy things, and we didn't even plan this, but while y'all have been on Sunrise vacation, we've been making amazing modifications to the church. So when you get back, we're going to have brand new floors. They look beautiful, by the way. We had a couple other construction projects, like new things that came in. Like it's not even going to look like the same place anymore. I might get a haircut. I mean, like crazy things are happening. Jeremy got himself a weed whacker, and that's what we're gonna try to see if that works. But when you come back, it's going to be a little bit different, and so I think it's kind of weird to be having all this stuff happening at the church, and then knowing that none of you guys get to see that. One cool thing that happened this week. This is my one update. Out in the front lawn, if you saw the pictures on Facebook, we have recently acquired some very luxurious, luxurious porta-johns. And this is just earmuffs on your kids right now, okay? But I want you to know that we thought that you all should see the porta-johns that have been put up at Sunrise, because you're not all coming to Sunrise every day. And so our best British friend Paul, who was there volunteering with me that day, we decided that we should get a picture in these porta-johns, and Kimberly volunteered to take the picture.
Actually inside of them?
Yes.
So we stuck our head. You can go online and see the picture, but the interesting part to this story for me is that right before we went in there, a guy these porta-johns had been there for maybe 15 minutes, and as soon as they dropped those suckers off, somebody walked in there and was in there for a while. Like, I'm not gonna specify how long, but it was a while. And so Paul says to me, because I love Paul and his British accent, he's like, "Why don't you go in that one?" And so I went in that one, and I got to stick my head in there, and I would not recommend it. I'm assuming it smells even worse now. But they look nice, and it's a nice piece to add to the Sunrise scenery with the hand washing stations in the bathrooms and giving people a chance to actually be able to use the facilities in places that are not the grass. We are appreciative of that in our partnerships with the City of Austin. So I'm going to let Jeremy talk a little bit about what it looks like to kind of be in 12 steps right now, because I know that's a really important part to a lot of people in our community, and a lot of people are really struggling to kind of get their mojo from a 12-step perspective. How do you connect to other people? How do you connect to your sponsor? How do you connect to a 12-step group? Jeremy, you want to kind of let us know how you've been navigating that?
Yeah, sure. Jeremy, alcoholic addict. For me,
hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
So for me, in the recovery community right now, it's been a little bit of a struggle. There aren't as many meetings going on. Like, there's not any physical meetings going on except for a few that I know of that I'm not going to say because it's not legal. But I hear that there are some physical meetings going on right now. And the Zoom meetings that we have, there's a few of them, and it just hasn't been as good or as wonderful as, like, I don't know. I guess what the difference is you can't really feel the energy of the room when you're not there in the room, and that's been kind of helpful with my recovery. But I don't know the last time I talked to my sponsor as much as I have in the last week, ever. Like, I've called them three times in the last 3 days, and that's been real helpful. People have reached out to me to check in on me. I think that's very, very important to do. If you haven't checked in on your friends who are in recovery, to do so. And this is a really good time to focus on your recovery and work on yourself. In my experience, in my opinion, that's what I've been trying to do. It's been a little hard because of the person I live with, and we won't go into details about that. But
hopefully they're not watching right now.
No, he's not watching.
Okay, great.
He's probably just...
Don't tell us what he's doing. Keep going.
Watching some ID Discovery. I don't know. Anyways, he's not a healthy person. But I think it's really important to reach out to the people you love in recovery and to just talk with them. Maybe Facebook message, video chat them. I don't know. For me, I'm taking this time to work on myself, get more spiritually close to God, and it's just really important to remember that recovery comes first, and that's what I got. Thanks.
Awesome.
All right, and Sarah, could you tell us a little bit about you're the volunteer queen at Sunrise, which I think is going to be your new title.
Tobacco farmer.
Yeah, we actually refer to her as the tobacco farmer. Somehow we hired a whole bunch of people named Sarah and a whole bunch of people named Kimberly at the same time, and a few Marks and a few Ashleys, and it's really confusing why we didn't get more diverse with our name selection. So if anyone has a crazy name like Phil. We're now taking applications for diverse names on our staff. But this is one of the many Sarahs that works for us. And Sarah, you want to tell people a little bit? Everybody's quarantined. What are some ways that people can get involved, are getting involved, if they're sitting at home, they're bored out of their minds, and they've watched every season on Netflix that they can think of?
Yeah. Well, okay. So what we're doing is I mean, a lot of you guys know what we do, but Monday through Friday, 9 to 1, we're open, and we're serving about 150 people a day right now, and it's slowly growing. So, and we have a lot of what I like to call rock star volunteers. Some of them are at home, really, really wishing that they could be here, be with us in person. To those of you guys who miss you guys, we wish you could be with us too, but I'm really glad that y'all are staying home and staying safe. So, and some of those that are staying home are cooking food from home, and I'll go by and pick it up. You can, like one of our volunteers, she puts it outside and I get it. So that's one way that you can help if you're stuck at home and you're getting antsy, is you can make food. You can make things like casseroles or sandwiches or things like that. And then we have a handful of people coming in each week in person, and they are working their butts off because there's only a handful of us and a handful of them doing it. And so that's something, if you are younger and interested in getting out and coming to help us in person, you can reach out to me and email me. My email's on the website, I think, right?
Sarah Combs at sunriseaustin.org.
That's true. I could have said that, I guess. But yeah, so there's a lot of cool things happening. I'm really proud to be part of an organization that is helping people right now who are, I know a lot of people are having a hard time in all different areas, but those experiencing homelessness are suffering a lot. So I'm glad to be a part of this, and if you want to get involved, just email me and I'll connect you.
Also, I think it would be interesting for the folks at home to know, Sarah, could you tell us what happened while Jeremy was talking earlier?
Well, there is a little snake back there.
What,
I didn't want to
what are you talking about?
you guys. You see it in the grass? It's like yellow and black.
I'll catch you.
Can someone in the comments who is from Texas and knows how to identify snakes tell us what a black and yellow snake is?
See it. It's a corn snake.
Is it point?
Yeah, that's a corn snake. That ain't nobody.
It appears to
If I
be.
can get him.
No,
No,
don't get
no.
him. Thank you. Good lord.
Come on, let me do it.
So there's a snake behind us, and if at any point we jump up, it's kind of like. So I guess this is kind of like the Garden of Eden.
Oh, shit, he's coming up the tree.
Yeah, he's coming up to see us. But we'll try to keep the snake at bay, and stay tuned for snake updates on the.
I would just like to let you know that I'm not okay with this.
On the half hour, we'll have
snake.
live snake
Yeah,
updates. At some point, maybe we'll take the camera and show you the snake. I'm going to decide his name is Steve. Steve the snake.
I'll watch him.
Yeah.
I like to call him
He's actually right on Kimberly's chair right now.
Tim the tree climber. Yeah.
Speaking of that, Kimberly, would you like to tell us the announcements now that you're completely deathly afraid of the snake that's behind you? And Jeremy and I'll keep a good eye out for you. We'll
listen,
keep a
I
good eye
trust
out.
Jeremy. I don't trust you.
That's fair. That's a very fair.
Oh, you don't know me that well.
You just said you would.
I got you. I got you. He's on the ground now.
Okay. In other news. So last week we had our very first house party. I call it a blog party because I want to have more fun, but Mark says it has to be a house party.
Because you're in your house.
Listen, he makes no sense. He wasn't even there. That's right. So it was really fun. The first 2 minutes was chaos because everyone was speaking. This week is going to be...
Sounds a lot like Sunrise.
Yeah, I know. This week is going to be even better. We have a planned event. We are not going to worry about the virus. We are not going to worry about everything that we're struggling with. Instead, we are going to look to the good things that are in our house. So I want you to join me on Wednesday night at 7 because apparently 8 is too late. And 9. He wants to do it at 9 as well. We're going to go on a treasure hunt of our own houses to find out what is in them, what it means to us, and learn a little bit about each other. Also, we have elders, and they are great. Elders, if you are watching, please put in the comments that you are an elder. We want you to reach out to them.
You know, like 45 people are going to put in there that they're an elder now.
Okay, listen.
Just because you're old doesn't make you an elder, just FYI.
Patty
You can be elected.
Stevens.
Yep.
Diane Bennett, Ed Knack, and Ben Sorrells. I can't ever say his name right, so I'm really sorry, Ben. Those are the people you want to reach out to. Make sure that you tell them how you're doing, what's going on in your life, what your struggles are, what your victories are, and because we want to know where you are. Like, just because we can't see your face every day and we're not standing this close doesn't mean we don't love you and
I did
want
that
to.
last week.
What? Stop! It's fine. It's fine. I told them to sit where they're sitting. It's my fault. Yes. We are also still having small groups every week. So if you have a small group that meets regularly, you're still meeting and you should still show up. And it's even easier because it's on Zoom now. So again, if your excuse was the traffic is just too far, or I'm tired, or I have to make dinner, well, guess what?
I'm washing my hair.
You can do all of those things. Maybe not washing your hair.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
No
On
excuse.
Zoom.
Don't call in from Zoom while you're in the shower. That's a no-no.
Or now that
You
got
can
the
wash your
time,
hair in the sink.
do it before the time, maybe.
Don't recommend it.
It can be fun. Do it. I think. Oh, we still have offering, y'all. This is church. Oh my gosh,
Sorry.
with the snake.
No, that was a freaking bug. Sorry. Sounded like a...
Man, we're the most city people ever.
Oh, yes, I am. We still have offering. You can donate online at sunriseaustin.org, or you can write a check and put it in the mailbox. I'm guessing you still have stamps in your desk. The address is 4430 Menchaca Road,
Menchaca.
Austin, Texas 78745. So please, still do the same things you were doing. We want to be able to come back just as strong as ever when the crisis is over and we come back as a normal family and not a virtual family. So we... What was I saying? Oh, offering. Give offering. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm distracted by what's happening back here because I know he's looking at the snake.
I'm watching him. He's moving.
Yes.
We're trying to figure out a way to
moving.
get the snake into a small group, specifically Kimberly's.
Nope.
Yeah.
He's not coming to the house party. No.
We could just zoom in.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So we're gonna go to a part of this where I'm going to give a little bit of a message while trying to avoid the snake. And so I'm also anticipating doing a snake altar call, and maybe he'll come up on the stage at that point. But we're going to do that. But I'm going to let Kim pray for it so it doesn't turn out super horribly.
That's what I'm gonna do. Yes. My name is Kimberly, but thank you.
All right, Kimberly.
Lord, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for bringing us to a beautiful place to worship you, to be with our family, our spiritual family here, Lord, and to be able to at least reconnect with a couple of people. But God, that we want to connect with every single one of us. God, that not a single person in our community, in our spiritual family would be left aside, that we wouldn't be forgotten. God, I just ask that you would create divine appointments in our next week. Even when we can't see each other, even when we aren't meeting for coffee or meeting at the church, God, that you would place those people on our minds, that we would think of them, that we would reach out to them. God, that you would give us the strength to look for you in this time of desperation, in this time of fear. God, that it wouldn't be a time of fear, but a time of growth. That it would show us how strong we are, and it would allow us to take a step back from our busy lives and reconnect with the Creator. God, that it would allow us to recreate, not only connect with the Creator, but connect with the creation. God, as we flock to our backyards and to parks to walk, God, that you would be in those moments, that you would be there, that you would give us a sound mind and keep us steady as we are isolated. God, that we would stay in quarantine without feeling alone. Lord, we praise you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So I just want to thank everybody who has been commenting on Facebook. I really appreciated the whole comment line around my haircut. That's really useful. Thank you for that. There's also some nice, there's also just some other good comments on there. Just to reiterate what we're going to be doing later in the service so that you can do something while I'm talking and not listen to me. Here's some good options. You can comment away. I know most of you talk during my sermon to your person sitting next to you at church anyway, so this is a good chance to recreate that. And so we would love for you to be commenting online. And like I said, we're going to read the best 3 comments as we go to the end of this. So make sure you get some good ones up there. Be creative, be energetic. Let us know where you're from. Say hi to each other. I'm glad you're already doing that. It's been one of the things that warms my heart about this whole situation is that watching those of you who have even moved around and left Sunrise and moved to other parts of the country have now gotten a chance to be involved and talk to each other through this medium. And so we're really excited about that. Also, we did not say, and I want to say, welcome to all of the people watching at Austin Recovery. We're really excited that you guys have joined us. We're down here south of the toll road, just like you are, Jeremy. Yeah, Jeremy wants to say hi to the people from Austin Recovery, but he's got a donut in his mouth. Can you swallow that?
Welcome.
All right, good.
I'm open for sponsorship.
Okay, great. All right. But we're really happy to welcome the folks from Austin Recovery. We love you guys, and we're glad that you guys are part of the Sunrise community as well. And we're so excited that we're being aired out there at Austin Recovery as well. Later also, just reminder to vote in the poll. So far, we don't have, not all of you have voted in the poll. You can just see the poll come up online and be able to vote on that right there on the video. It'll give you the option to vote for which song you want us to sing. We've got some good options today, and we would love to have you be a part of that. And the songs today are super unique and kind of just like what Sunrise is. So we would love to have you be a part of that. Today, for what we're going to read from Scripture, I just want to point you to the book of Matthew. We've been talking through this weird series where we started in church and now are in a place where snakes crawl around on the ground. We've moved our series around to a few different places, but we've been talking through all the different points in the Gospels where Jesus talks about his own death, how he previews his own death. And not from like that, like your weird neighbor who talks about their sicknesses all the time, person. But Jesus actually talking to his disciples about the fact that he was going to die and go to the cross and kind of preview what was coming down the pike. And so we'd love for you to turn with us this morning to Matthew. We're going to turn to Matthew chapter 17. Matthew chapter 17 is this story called the Transfiguration. And a lot of people, especially in the Protestant world, the non-Catholic, non-Orthodox world, don't really give a lot of credence to the story of the Transfiguration. But in a lot of parts of the world, the Transfiguration is a really, really big deal. And so I want to read this story, and kind of if it's not a story you're super familiar with, maybe it's one that you can help us interact with today. Matthew chapter 17, we're going to start at verse 1. It goes like this. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, kind of the all-stars of the disciple crew. And they went to a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. Just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. Peter, who always needs to talk first, said to Jesus, "Lord, it's good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell face down on the ground, terrified. But Jesus came up and touched them, and he said, "Get up, don't be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw nobody but Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus instructed them, "Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." So right there, right off the bat, he's previewing the fact that he's going to die and rise again. But the disciples say, they didn't respond to that. They, like when someone drops that in that they're going to be raised from the dead, you think they would respond to that, but instead they just kind of keep going with their own line of thinking. "Why then do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first?" Jesus replied, "To be sure, Elijah will come and restore all things, but I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but they have done to him everything that they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he was talking about John the Baptist. So the reason that we threw this passage into this series was because we were talking about times where Jesus kind of previewed the end of his life, the end of his time on earth, and him being put to death and rising again. Which we're going to, kind of celebrate next week with Palm Sunday. We're going to celebrate in 2 weeks with Easter. But this is Jesus previewing the fact that this is going to happen. But it's such an interesting story to interact with, I think. And it's one of the stories that, as somebody who kind of approaches things from a very logical standpoint, that I oftentimes struggle with, because Transfiguration is kind of a bizarre story. Like they're hanging out with sinners, they're going to tax collector parties, they're doing all this interesting stuff, but most of it's pretty like run of the mill stuff. Like they're having dinner, he's speaking, they're doing lots of real kind of normal things. And then all of a sudden, just sprinkled into this story is the story of Jesus on a mountain, like shining like the light, and then Moses and Elijah showing up. And that whole thing, it has some big significance if you're reading this with kind of some Jewish eyes. And I want to kind of say why that is. One of the reasons that that's a really important thing is that a lot of people thought, and we read this in our story last week. If you didn't watch last week, you can go back and watch it now. But what we talked about last week was that a lot of people mistook Jesus as a reincarnation of someone else. So they thought that Jesus maybe was a reincarnation of a prophet. A lot of people thought he was a reincarnation of Elijah. That he was a reincarnation of some other Old Testament figure, that he couldn't be an original, that he was somebody that was a reincarnation of something else. And there's actually some basis for this. In the book of Malachi, one of the shorter books at the end of the Old Testament, Malachi says that Elijah will come back, and when Elijah comes back, he's going to be the one that announces the end, and he announces the coming of the kingdom. And so what Jesus is saying in this passage is he's actually saying, because a lot of people knew this prophecy about Elijah coming back. A lot of people thought to themselves, oh, Elijah's coming back, Elijah's coming back. So when Jesus came, they thought he might be Elijah coming back, and they were pretty smart for saying that. What Jesus says in this passage is he actually says, no, there was an Elijah that came back, but I'm not it. I'm the one that comes after Elijah. And so there's this thing that happens in the Bible where every time you see major characters in the Bible, you see one and then the other, one and then the other. So the first one that you see of that is the first person you see like that is Moses and Joshua. Moses is the one who makes all the waves and leads the people, but he ultimately isn't the one that leads them during peacetime. The one that leads them during peacetime is Joshua. And then we see that with Elijah and Elisha. Elijah is like the one who's like, starting fights with the leaders and starting fights with kings, and he plows the ground. And then Elisha kind of comes through, and Elisha kind of has a nice little rule as a prophet after Elijah comes through and kind of plows the ground for him. And then we see John the Baptist kind of do the same thing with Jesus. John the Baptist comes through, and this dude's out in the desert, and he's eating bugs, and he's doing lots of crazy stuff, and people are coming to see this guy because he's kind of a nut job, but he's also like a really important prophet. And so as John the Baptist goes out, he's kind of plowing that ground, and then Jesus kind of comes through and sees that. And so what's interesting too is that those names, Joshua, Elisha, Jesus, the second person in all of those, are actually very similar words in Hebrew. So there's this tie between Joshua, between Elisha, and between Jesus all throughout the Old Testament into the New Testament. There's always someone who comes and plows the ground, and there's someone who kind of comes through and lives into that reality, into that new reality. And so this is Jesus saying, I had an Elijah. That Elijah is John the Baptist. And what had happened recently in this story, and remember that John the Baptist is Jesus' cousin, one of the things that happened in the story just before this was that it was discovered that the Jewish leaders in combination with the Roman rulers had beheaded John the Baptist. And so John the Baptist was the cousin of Jesus, but he was also kind of this person who plowed the ground spiritually for Jesus. And the Roman leaders and probably made the Jewish leaders very happy for him to do this, beheaded John the Baptist. And what Jesus says in this moment is he said, what they did to John the Baptist, they're going to do to me. Not specifically beheading, but you all know how Jesus dies. This is Jesus saying, you've seen what happens already. We've mourned the fact that my cousin, this person who was very connected to Jesus, John the Baptist, was killed for what he believed in. I am also going to be killed for what I believe, and I'm going to be killed for what I say. I'm going to be killed for who I claim that I am. And so he's laying that out for his people. There's something else that's really significant about this story when you see Moses and you see Elijah coming and being with Jesus. First of all, like I just think it's cool, right? Like I always kind of picture like water cooler conversations in heaven where you get to hang out with like famous people from the Bible. Like I don't know who would be your favorite famous person from the Bible to hang. Like who do you think would be the most fun? Who would be the most sunrise person to hang out with in heaven? I'm going to say like Paul maybe. I think Peter, kind of a little hot-headed, kind of a Jeremy Burnett type. Somebody like that would be a good person to hang out around the water cooler in heaven. Maybe there's somebody else that you think would be a really cool person to hang out with in heaven. Maybe it's just somebody you want to ask some solid questions to. And so I think that there's some of those, and so this is just one of those where here we've got Jesus, and he's sitting around with Elijah and Moses, just kicking it on the top of this mountain. And so I think that this is one of those like previews, and Jesus towards the end of his life and towards after he's risen from the dead gives us lots of previews of about what our future's like. If you're like me, sometimes I get bored with the idea that we're all just going to be floating beings playing harps and singing songs all the time in heaven. Like, I think it's way cooler to think about, like, just being able to watch a football game with Moses and Elijah, like being able to, like, eat some Totino's pizza rolls with Paul. Like, whatever it is that you think you're going to chill in eternity doing, I think this could be a pretty good preview that Moses and Elijah and Jesus are all hanging up there. And I think it's also funny that the disciples, their first response to this is, oh, do you want us to build you some tents? And I feel like Elijah and Moses at this point are like, tents? You think we need tents? We're like spiritually glowing beings. We don't need tents. But this is kind of what happens a lot of times when we interact with something so amazing that we get to see. I think sometimes when we interact with the amazing realities of the supernatural, like our first response is to just like try to grab onto the closest branch that we can find to stabilize ourselves so we don't fall down. And so a lot of times, like, we'll see something really amazing happen. And like one of the things we see all the time at the Navigation Center, which I think is interesting. I was talking to Sarah about this the other day. There's this thing where, like, we'll say something that we need and it will show up. Like, within minutes. It's unbelievable how that happens, that we'll say something and then it shows up. And when that happens, like, part of you just get, like, chills. Like some of you are like, ooh, I can't believe that just happened. But it's happened so many times now that I don't even really know what to do with it, that we state a need, and sometimes I'll state a need out loud and that thing will show up within a few minutes, and it's just an unbelievable reality. I'm not one of these people that's constantly touting miracles that I see every day, but I do think that that there is a reality to when we interact with something supernatural. When we see something supernatural, our first response is to try and explain it away, or our first response is to try and say something dumb because it's the only thing that comes into our head, and we try to come up with a simple way to deal with it. And so I feel like Peter. I'm like Peter a lot of the time, where Peter sees something absolutely amazing. He's interacting with Moses and Elijah, the heroes of the faith, and Jesus all at the same time. And his first response is the tents. And that's all he can come up with to say. And I feel like I would probably do the same. I'd be like, you need a pizza? What can I do for you? And I feel like maybe during this time that we're all stuck together, maybe it's important for us also to think to ourselves, like, what happens when we interact with something supernatural? What happens when we interact with something that we can't explain, or when we see something powerful? Is our reaction to allow it to process in our brains? Is it for us to allow the amazing thing that we've seen to really start to grow and create faith in us? Or is it something that we try to explain away? Is it something that we try to come up with a simple answer for? The other piece of this story that's really interesting is that Moses and Elijah represent something really important to the biblical story. Elijah represents the prophets, and Moses represents the law. And a lot of times what people say about Jesus, that Jesus is the culmination of the prophets and the law. Like, all of the Old Testament has these prophets, and the prophets all say really important things from God, and they get to kind of rule for a time. And the law is really important also in kind of biblical times. And to say that Moses represents the law and Elijah represents the prophets is to basically say that between the two of them, they represent God speaking to us in general. Like what we know of God, the sliver that we know about God, is based in this idea that we have the law and we have the prophets, and those are the primary ways, other than creation and other things, that we see that God speaks to us. And what's being shown in this mountain, and the fact that God speaks from heaven and says, "This is my guy, this is my son, this is the one you should listen to." What he's saying is Jesus is the culmination of the law and the prophets. That it's not that the law and prophets don't matter anymore, but if you have Jesus with you to interpret the realities of the world, you don't really need the law and the prophets. Like, he is God himself speaking. Like, you get to see the realities of heaven and what it would look like if the realities of heaven, kind of took over the realities of earth. That's what Jesus is. That's what Jesus personified. That's why we listen to the teachings of Jesus and sometimes supplement the teachings of Jesus, or sometimes put as superior the teachings of Jesus over the law and the prophets. Because if it's great to get the law, it's great to get the prophets, but if you can get the real thing, if you can actually connect to the real deal of God in Jesus, then you've actually got like the actual first-hand account of what it is to be God, what it is to know the world as it would be in perfection, how the world was created to work. It's like when I get something donated to the church and I can't figure out how to turn that sucker on, I go online and I find the instruction manual. It's like having Jesus come here and be like, I'm here to give you the instruction manual for how this thing works, this thing of life and this thing of the world. I'm here to give you the instruction manual. I want to tell you how this is supposed to work. I know you have your ideas about how you think it works and how you think it's supposed to work. I'm here to tell you how it actually works, how you actually should live, how you actually should interact with God and interact with each other. And that's, I think, what we have in Jesus is this amazing person who's also God, who comes and shows us the way that the realities of heaven are supposed to mix with the realities of earth, the way that we're supposed to live and the priorities we're supposed to have, and the way that we live in a way that defies religiosity and it defies living according to some sort of standard that's other than Jesus. He steps in and he shows us that there is a better way than simply trying to orient our lives around a set of rules or trying to orient our lives around a set of sayings from people. This is Jesus saying, this is the way, this is the model, this is the blueprint for how people are supposed to live. And at the core of that is Jesus pointing to his own death and saying, I am going to show you the best way to live. And the best way to live is to lay your life down for other people. The best way to live is to allow yourself to speak such truth that it hurts the hearts of people who are so far away from living that way. And sometimes when you speak the truth, and sometimes when you bring truth to reality where people don't really want to hear it, people are going to get mad at you, and people are going to want to hurt you, and people are going to want to stop what you're doing. And that's what they did to Jesus. That's the unfortunate power of evil in our world, that when we hear the truth, part of us says, all right, I can deal with that maybe a little bit. And part of us ultimately says, I don't want to do this. Like, I know this might be true, but I don't want that. I'm not interested in a reality where I'm not the center of the universe. And so I think that what Jesus shows us is not just that there's a better way to live, there's a better way to interact with God and with each other, but that there is a better long-term solution, that there is a better way because Jesus has come, Jesus has died for us, and Jesus has allowed us to partake in this new heavenly reality here on earth and for all eternity. And it's an amazing thing to see Jesus previewing that by being on this mountain with these two classic characters from the Old Testament, showing his disciples a little sneak preview of what it's going to be like for us all to live in the heavenly reality, not just here and now, but for all eternity. Chilling with Moses and Elijah around the water cooler, sitting around watching a football game with Peter, whatever it is that you think you're going to do for all eternity, and whatever things you're looking forward to in that spiritual and long-term heavenly reality, we get a chance to preview by seeing Jesus in this story, and by knowing that Jesus died for us, and by knowing that Jesus is coming again. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we are so grateful that you love us so much. We are so grateful that you sent your Son to die for us so that we could have access to that heavenly reality. We thank you that you sent Jesus to show us that there is a better way than rules, that there is a better way than following just what we've heard about you. We thank you that you let us experience the real deal, that you let us experience what it was like to see Jesus interact with this world, and to see the ways in which he treated the poor, to see the ways in which he treated people with power, to see the things that he didn't say even though he could have, to understand that Jesus, what it looks like to be graceful, to be righteously angry, to be frustrated, to desire to be by yourself for a while and reload. So many things that we see from Jesus that show us that there is a heavenly reality to our current world. And so, Lord, I pray during this Lent time, as we look forward to the coming of Easter and Good Friday and Palm Sunday, that you would remind us that Jesus came to set a new standard, and that Jesus is setting a new standard for all eternity for us. Not one that's dominated by guilt and shame and lost chances, but an opportunity to see that we get a chance to actually experience a heavenly reality and live into our created purpose, not just now, but for all of eternity. And we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I'm going to welcome my team back, and so we are going to finish out our time together like we always do by first starting with our comments. I'm going to turn this over to Kimberly because she has been carefully reading through your comments and cackling during my entire message over behind there.
Sorry.
I was going to speak to that because Mark has an amazing ability to focus amidst great distraction. So
Yeah.
I
I tried.
I don't have that.
Hold on. Are you calling yourself a great distraction? Is that what you? Okay. All right.
All of us.
I'm a great
All of us.
distraction.
All right. You are a great
I
distraction.
know it's
Yeah.
just
Jeremy-
super evil.
Jeremy actually puts all of you to shame as a great distraction.
Oh yeah. Well, but he was.
there is no
he was
snake that has
trying.
nothing on Jeremy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Jeremy, what all did you do?
Can we uninvite you to the next one? Is
No,
that- okay.
no.
Okay.
got so many
I'm going
better
to turn this
things
over to
to do.
Kimberly.
Might not
'cause
be
I'm just-
entertaining for
yeah.
Mark, but it's entertaining for me. Anyway.
Entertaining for me too.
What do you got, Kimberly? What are our
first
best
off,
comments?
y'all are weird. There are at least 3 of you who commented that you wanted to see the snake. That's weird. No.
Jerry, put that away.
That's one of our comments.
We're giving away.
That's what I was trying to distract Mark
Sarah, would you like to go first?
I would love to go first.
Also, we have a problem with Harry Potter.
Yeah. So
Point.
Wait, where are there some people who hate Harry Potter online right now?
No.
Quite
Like,
the opposite.
we have a problem with Harry Potter
Oh.
in the sense that we relate everything.
I actually watched part of a Harry Potter movie last night, which is very not me.
with. That's funny.
But have you read the book? Because
Um,
that's way better.
I feel like I need to confess that I watched it. Like, is that? Can you absolve me of that? Okay, thanks.
Do 3
okay.
Hail Marys.
Yeah.
I
So
will
I
not.
just think it's really
Don't do that.
appropriate that we saw a snake being on the Wizard Academy.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Absolutely.
Ooh, that was at
That's
the
good.
that was at the end of the
Slytherin.
Deathly Hallows, the snake.
yeah.
Oh, great.
So your dad.
I need a sword.
Your dad's Randy, right?
Yeah.
So your dad and Trish both spoke to the snake situation. Your dad went and he says this meeting is definitely being taken over by Slytherin.
Oh,
Slytherin.
yes.
That's fantastic. All right.
And then Trish wanted to know if we or you, I'm not sure who she was talking to, speaks parcel tongue. Anyone
Well,
on
apparently
this
I'm a
board?
Ravenclaw based on the comments, so it would not be me.
Did not realize that we were going to be meshing Harry Potter
Jeremy
with
is obvious-
Christianity. This
Jeremy
is some
is
sort of
obviously
uh,
Gryffindor, so the only Slytherin at this
I don't
table
even know
would
what
be
I don't
you.
even know what that,
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
Like the most evil.
Are they the people who ride on the
house.
brooms?
What?
Like
They're-
with the
they're
ball?
the
They,
bad
they play
guys.
some sort of ball
The
on brooms?
I
person-
thought
can
you
speak
just
to
watched
snakes.
this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only really watched the one where it has terrible graphics, like the first one before they had money.
Stop.
Okay, all right.
Stop.
See, now you're just down in it.
All right. Second quote.
Second quote.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Michelle Thompson said, "Never trust
Hi, Michelle.
Mark. He will throw you under the bus in a second, like I think he's done with each one of us
Oh,
Never
today.
trust Mark.
today."
Yeah.
So,
For Jesus.
yes. Thank you, Michelle
Yeah,
Thompson.
Jesus. Last quote comes from two people. Amazing people. Thank you. Wes says, and then David replies, Wes, say plow one more time.
You did
Go ahead.
say it. I noticed it.
Just the word.
Please say it.
And David responds,
Where I grew up in Iowa, everyone plows the fields. It's a common thing. This is part of our world. Okay, so I just get your minds out of the gutter.
Who said they were in there?
just so you know, Mark does not generally have a sermon without a farming or animal reference. David Johnson responds, the
Hey, by
use
the way-
of the word,
by the
I
way,
am talking.
Neither did Jesus. Neither did Jesus. Lots of farming and animal references. Go ahead.
The use of the word plow triggers generations' agony and raises the voice of my tortured ancestors.
Oh man.
Wait, was he saying that in a positive way or a negative way?
No, a negative way to
Oh.
you.
You
Sorry,
triggered-
David.
triggered him.
You triggered him.
I love you.
He left out.
Those are our quotes. And then, all the people who want to see the snake. We did have a request, which we're going to honor. Jeremy, can you please do the Arnold impression?
Yes.
Thank you.
This was a wonderful service this morning. Yeah.
That's going to ruin the copyright violation on this. We're going to get this pulled because it was so accurate to Arnold. All right, so we've been watching the poll on which song that we should do, and the winner is "Oh Happy Day." So we're going to invite in our special musical guest. She's she's not. She thinks she's not special, but she is. We're going to invite over one of our worship leaders who's been sitting there the whole time making faces at us. She's going to join us for this.
Mocking us.
We have two options. Who do you
Talking
think it is?
during the sermon,
Which
which
of
is
our
what
two
I do.
female worship leaders do you think that it is? It's Kim! All right. So we're not gonna do that cheesy thing where we play on YouTube.
I don't have sheets.
This is a song that requires a lot of people responding after this is a call and response song. So
That's right.
I want you to know that you are going to be the responders and I'm going to be the caller. And I want everyone to pretend that they are wearing a nun robe, and we are part of the Sister Act crew because that is the best rendition of this song, in my opinion.
That's true.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.
Jesus won. When Jesus won. When Jesus won. And washed my sins away. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. He taught me how to watch and pray. Watch and pray. 3, 4, 1, and go rejoice. Every day. 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. When Jesus won. Jesus won. When Jesus won. Wash my sins away. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day.
Just like to say they clearly have sung this together before,
Woohoo!
but Sarah and I have not.
We didn't get
I think that was
practice.
painfully obvious to everybody.
Watch this track too.
Rude.
All right, friends. Now
Rude.
we have reached the end of the service, and it's everybody's favorite thing in the whole world, which is Mark's tips for surviving the apocalypse. And I want you to know that today I have been tortured too much by this over the years. And first we started with this thing where I was going to be saran wrapped, and then we moved into a situation where I was sprayed with a power washer. Today we're thinking of the singles, and we've heard loud and clear from you that the singles in the group really need a hand, especially the single men that are part of our community. And so Jeremy and I are well known to the world as ladies' men. Many people in the world are like, I would love to be coached by Jeremy and Mark about how to start a serious relationship with a woman that can be glorifying to God and can set me up for long-term prosperity and security. Jeremy and I are well known as experts in this field. And so today, for the tips to survive the apocalypse, Jeremy and I will be having a COVID-safe pickup line battle. And helping us out with this, we have 3 actual women, which are usually things that Jeremy usually people that Jeremy and I can't think. Sorry, that was not.
What's that supposed to mean?
Usually Jeremy and I have trouble talking to women, but today we have women that are going to rate our pickup lines by themselves, and they're going to tell us what they think of our pickup lines. So Jeremy and I are going to read our pickup lines. They're going to give us a score. We have phenomenal judges, well known in judging pickup lines. Sarah Combs and Kim Augustine and Kimberly Masters. Come on.
Pull your
and,
chairs up. Get ready to rate this.
I don't know how I feel about you saying actual women.
Well,
Because there's a lot of confusion about
Versus-
transgender.
we're really thankful that these folks are welcoming. Now, if the snake wants to vote, I think we should also let the snake vote. We just need to decide if it's a man or a woman.
It went under the deck.
Oh, I missed. It's a snake, so it's
So,
obviously a man.
because I'm probably going to win,
No one's
I'm going to let Jeremy go first. So, just to kind of lay this out, Jeremy's going to say a pickup line, and we're trying to keep this family safe, but just in case it's not, maybe tell the kids to go play Uno. And we're gonna say our line, and then the three of these ladies who are experienced daters are going to tell us what they think of our lines. Jeremy, what is your first pickup line that you would like to give to a woman during COVID?
All right, so my first pickup line would be grab her hand and I'd be like, you know, you can't spell quarantine without you are a cutie.
Whoa!
Good job.
I don't know.
Oh, you're way nicer.
Oh, I got
All right, scores, judges. Whoa! You got a 4, 4, and an upside down 8. All right, look at you.
Get some of
Now I'm ready to win, and here's mine. Hey, baby. I used to have a job, but now I'm getting a government fat check.
Oh, wow.
All right.
You're all getting one, by the way.
Unless you owe
If he
child
gets a higher
support.
score, he'll get one too.
That's so bad.
If he scores higher than me, I'm
Yeah,
walking.
no.
I'm just kidding.
They're gonna get better over time. All
I
right,
got a way better
scores,
one.
ladies. Whoa!
It's like even.
So I think I'm not winning
I
right
won,
now.
I won
Okay,
by
all right,
one.
Jeremy, your turn.
So I've got plenty of food and toilet paper. Want to bunker down with me?
Score says. By the way, if you've got better ones, we want to see them on the comment line because I
please
think you
comment.
probably have some fantastic ones.
Please
all right, go
comment.
ahead.
Whoa!
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. I think this one's gonna be good. Now imagine I'm wearing a mask. I didn't want to waste one on this. Okay. Hey, baby.
Yeah, I have one.
Let's rub our masks together.
Ooh.
It's called a COVID kiss. It's kind of like it's kind of like an Eskimo kiss, but it's a COVID kiss.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I like
Thanks.
it.
Thanks. All right. Scores. 1. This is rigged. This is rigged.
All right.
The
Don't
fix
take,
is in. The fix is in.
just don't take my good looks into consideration, guys. Come on out.
All right,
We'll
Jeremy.
try.
Jeremy, what do you got?
So the whole world might be getting sick, but I'll never get sick of looking at you.
Whoa.
Good.
Sweet.
I feel like it might be true that you've dated more recently than me. Well, you can't compare notes. Just each give your own independent, objective score. Okay, what do you got? 7, 8, and 8. Oh my God. Luckily, mine are getting better as we go. Okay.
Are they?
So you hope.
Hold on. Hey, baby. Just like coronavirus, you take my breath away.
Yeah! I saw that one. I saw that one.
Come
I
on.
saw that one. I wasn't
Yeah.
going to use it because it's sweet.
All right, what do we got?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm above 5 finally.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
Where was the
Let me know when it's our last
I
one.
know.
All right, we got 2 more. 2 more.
You smell so good. Is that Purell you're wearing? Wow, I might have to go out.
All right. Well, this one involves a prop, so this
Oh.
this is going to be me putting on a glove and saying,
No,
Just lost points.
it's already done.
"Baby, it's not you, it's me." What do you feel about that? Huh? But I'm saying, explaining why I'm putting a glove on. Am I getting worse?
That's horrible.
You got? If anybody else any other better glove ones, I just had a glove and I needed to use it for something. Okay. What do I got? 1, 3. It's not you,
so
it's me.
bad.
Okay. All right. Last one, Jeremy.
Yeah, you
What do you got?
Do you need toilet paper? Because I'll be your Prince Charmin.
Someone's melting somewhere right now. That was so good.
I'm
Prince
doing
Charmin.
it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah!
Okay, now my last one, I will admit, is a little bit. It might get us into copyright violation. So, and this one requires singing. Okay, because I know women love to be sang
Let me
to
please do my
by
last
people other than me.
The word is
I can get a mask, baby. I can sanitize your hands. I don't have a test, but baby, I'll keep folks 6 feet away.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Come on, tens! Tens.
Not gonna be tens.
Let me get one more.
Fine. What do you got?
For effort.
Okay. I feel like those are mercy those are mercy eights. Mercy eights. Mercy eights. Okay, Jeremy, what do you got? This is the last one.
I thought that was last one.
I know, but Jeremy says he's got such a good one it needs to go last.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you looking for a dirty boy? Because I only wash my hands for 15 seconds.
I feel like that may have been
Really?
He may have used this one before, actually.
No, it was
10?
funny.
What?
It was funny.
Friends, we're so thankful that you've joined us. We are so hoping that you join us next week, where we can only go uphill from here. Thank you for being a part of the Sunrise community. Friends, go with the power of God, the love of Jesus Christ, and the witness of the Holy Spirit. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Please don't judge me.
Bye.
Don't take the power away.